Hello everyone, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Durrett 6. So let's get started. So conference realignment, college football has become a very popular topic recently, with some of the Big Ten teams that are not happy with the Big Ten's decision and they're wanting to try to play this fall like in Ohio, Nebraska, Penn State, and so on. Um, and there are some things that still don't make sense from the 2011 realignment. For example, why in the heck is West Virginia in the Big 12? Geographically, it just does not make any sense whatsoever. Same with um, Same with why Rutgers is in the Big Ten, because now ever since Rutgers have been in the Big Ten, they struggle versus back in the ACC where they at least were mediocre. Um, so I decided I'm going to go ahead and go over what I would do for conference realignment, and this is what it will look like. To start off, there would be no Power Five, Group of Five separation, so that way everyone can be as close as possible. Um, with still a total of 10 conferences. And no independence. Each conference can have a different amount of teams, and it can range from at least 10 to then whatever it was, 12, 14, whatever. And then there will be no divisions within the conference, but depending on the amount of teams in the conference, you won't be able to play everyone per se, so I'll have to change on a year-to-year basis. But yeah, anyways, I would go with no conference championship games because I feel like while it doesn't happen all the time, I feel like the majority of the time, whoever wins the conference in the regular season will then win the conference championship game the following week because that's what has been happening recently. So I feel like it's just an extra game we can get rid of, so that way the bowl games and playoffs can start earlier. Um, and then I would make expand the playoffs to eight since you're going to have 10 Power Five conferences. That means you would have to expand the playoffs to eight, and then keep the New Year's Six bowl games. But the New Year's Six bowl games this time won't be included as a part of the playoff games, which means more games for good teams. Um, it would be a prestigious honor to be. It's basically a prestigious honor to be for teams barely missing out on the playoffs, basically, for the New Year's Six bowl games this time around. So as far as the rest of the bowl games go, I feel like we can keep them in this scenario for now. I'm not sure if I'd keep them all, but we'll kind of wait and see on that. So here we go. So the first conference, I call this the Northeast Conference because you have Boston College, Rutgers, Syracuse, Buffalo, Maryland, Navy, Army, Temple, Pittsburgh, Penn State, UMass, UConn, West Virginia, and Marshall. So a lot of those are northeastern teams, and then so it makes sense geographically. And and there's a mixture of some good teams and decent teams in here. So, I mean, on paper this looks like one of the easier conferences for sure, but there's some good teams on here. And then I guess the yearly favorite getting out would be Penn State as of right now. And then I would still keep a conference called the ACC. And Virginia Tech will still be in there, but now you add Liberty and Old Dominion. You keep the North Carolina State, Duke, Wake Forest, and then you add Appalachian State, East Carolina, Coastal Carolina, and Charlotte, and then you keep Clemson, and then you add South Carolina. So I feel like that's a pretty good conference right there. And then I feel like the yearly favorite as right now would be Clemson. And then there's another conference I'd call the South Atlantic. So you have all the teams on the Atlantic coast, and then you have the South Atlantic, which is like they're at the southeast of the United States, and also on the Atlantic coast, like Florida, for example. So basically, this conference just includes the Florida and Georgia teams. So you got Florida, Florida State, Miami, FAU, FIU, South Florida, UCF, and then you got the Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and Georgia Southern. So the yearly favorite in this one, in my opinion, would be Georgia, or you can say Florida, depending on the year. And then I would still keep a conference called the SEC. And in the SEC, you have all the Alabama teams, all the Louisiana teams, and all the Mississippi teams. So you have Alabama, Auburn, UAB, Troy, South Alabama, and then Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Southern Miss, and then Louisiana, Louisiana Monroe, Louisiana Raging Cajuns, the Louisiana Tech, and Tulane. And then yearly favorite, this one would be Alabama, but depending on the year, it could be Auburn or LSU. And then I have a conference called the Middle Eastern Conference. Not to be confused with the actual Middle East, but the Middle East is basically just the teams that are above the teams in the Southeastern Conference. So you got teams in Arkansas, Kentucky, and Tennessee stuff. So you got Arkansas, Arkansas State, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, Memphis, Middle Tennessee, Kentucky, Louisville, Western Kentucky, and then Missouri. So I feel like the yearly favorite probably in this one would be Tennessee, depending on the year. But this right now looks like to be Tennessee. Um, and I call a conference called the Big North. So it's basically just Michigan and Ohio, like all the states that are bordering Canada, basically up in the Midwest North. So you got like Michigan, Michigan State, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, Eastern Michigan, and then you got Ohio State, Cincinnati, Ohio, Toledo, Bowling Green, Akron, Miami, Ohio, Kent State, and then you got Minnesota and Wisconsin because there's only one um, major FBS conference from um, both of those two states. Um, so that would be the Big North there, and then yearly favorite obviously would be Ohio State. And I have a Big South, and that would include Notre Dame, Illinois, Northwestern, Purdue, Indiana, Iowa, Iowa State, Nebraska, Northern Illinois, and Ball State. And the yearly favorite in my mind would be Notre Dame, but it depends on the year. Because right now Iowa State's good this year. Nebraska could be good in this conference. You just never know. Um, and then I got the conference. There's a Big South conference and I got a Big Southern conference. So this is mainly the Texas, Oklahoma's of the world. So you got Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, Texas State, UTSA, UTEP, North Texas, SMU, Houston, Rice. And then you got Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Kansas State, and then I'm going to add North Dakota State on here. Now, North Dakota State could be in the Big South or Big Ten, but I decided to include it in the Big Southern. Um, and I feel like North Dakota State's the one FCS team I'll regulate to FBS. I just feel like it's time. And then there's no teams that I would regulate to from FBS to FCS level because they deserve to be FBS in the first place. They just need to get the coaching and system and players right, and then they could be a good FBS team. Like for example, I mean, Troy was not good starting off, but then over time they became a respectable G5 program type of thing. So then you got the Mountain Conference. Instead of calling it Mountain West, I'm just going to call it the Mountain Conference. So you got the Arizona State, BYU, Utah State, Boise State, Wyoming, Colorado State, Air Force, Nevada, and UNLV. And then the yearly favorite, this one will definitely change depending on the year, but Arizona State would be the favorite right now. And then you got the Pacific Conference, all the teams in the Pacific. You got Hawaii, and then you got Washington State, Oregon State, and then all the California schools like California, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Fresno State, San Diego State, and San Jose State. So then the yearly favorite, in my opinion, here would be Oregon. And then for me, I would say you would not have more than 2 non-conference games. So then that way we also again create more time for the 18 playoff thing and other bowl games to get that started earlier. So in my opinion, I feel like that's the best case scenario. That's how these conferences should be aligned. Because especially in a pandemic like this, like geographical locations make the most sense. And right now, with all the conferences the way they're aligned, they're not aligned to the best of the ability as far as geographical wise. And also just change some things up. Like for example, to have instead of having a Power 5 Group of 5, we can just have a Power 10 conference, and it's like we can get it can become more interesting basically, and maybe provide some more chaos, which would be nice. Also, that gives a Group of 5 teams a chance to see what they would do with Power 5 like money type of things. That it would just be better, in my opinion, for them to do that. So let me know what you think on that in the comments. So I want to talk about the NBA playoffs real quick. So Damian Lillard is going to be out for Game 5 for the Lakers tonight, which means the Lakers are going to complete the series, in my opinion. I mean, even if Damian Lillard was playing, I felt like they were going to win tonight anyways, but now it's going to be for sure. So the Blazers, they had a good run, good effort, had a good bubble, but unfortunately, it's come to an end. And then the Bucks play the Magic today as well, and that should come to an end. The Rockets and Thunder also play, and that one's very interesting because if the Thunder go up 3-2, then it's going to be very trouble. It's going to be Houston might get upset there because Russell Westbrook apparently is still not healthy enough to come back as of right now. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens there. And then also from last night's game, the Nuggets are staying alive because they beat the Jazz, and which doesn't surprise me there too much per se. And then the Mavs Clippers game, now that was a disappointing game as a Mavs fan. I mean, I knew Porzingis was playing stuff, and Luka's still hurting. Apparently, Finney-Smith's hip's been quite hurting and stuff like that. So, I mean, they're a little injury riddle. And I mean, for the Clippers, Patrick Beverley's still playing, but man, Paul George, did he finally find his shot. Now the question is, can he keep it up or not? I feel like he can. Not every single game per se, but I feel like he can keep up his good pace now. I feel like he just had a funk and now he got out of it type of thing, which is dangerous for the Mavs. But if the Mavs want to come back in the series and give themselves a chance in Game 6 tomorrow, they have. Porzingis has to play. Which I imagine he's not at least trying to play in the first place because it's the playoffs. It's time to play through injuries unless it was too bad type of thing. And knee soreness, in my opinion, is not too bad. Like, why you can't jump stuff, you can still be able to at least be on the floor and shoot a jump shot or something like that with knee soreness. But anyway, so also I wanted to talk about Philadelphia 76ers firing Brett Brown, which doesn't come as a surprise. I want to talk about who I feel like would be the best fit to be their next head coach. And in my opinion, I feel like if for some reason Tyronn Lue does not get the Brooklyn job, because I feel like he'd be a better fit there, if he does not get that job, then I feel like Philadelphia would be the best option for him, just because he, when he started coaching Cleveland, he already had stars. In this case, he already has stars. He made Kyrie and LeBron work together, and that was kind of hard to do. So I feel like he can maybe find a way to work out Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to work together. Because of right now, the Philadelphia 76ers said they're not going to trade either one of them at all until the new coach comes, and then they go through a year to see if the new coach can kind of figure things out. And if he can't, then they can separate the two. In my opinion, they should separate the two beforehand, but it's the 76ers, and they're not used to winning a lot, so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't do that. So it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there. So that's it for my podcast today. Thank you very much for tuning in. Please subscribe to my channel. Tell everyone about me. Thank you very much. You all have a wonderful day.